Moldova, December 2020. In the courtroom of Chisinau, a hush falls, broken only by the click of camera shutters. On the defendant's bench sits 21-year-old Anna Lejkovic, a native of Comrat and a student in the medical faculty. These are her first public hearings after her arrest, and the young woman's behavior shocks everyone present. She does not hide from the cameras. She lies relaxed on the bench, cleaning her nails and smiling, as though she were not in court, but at a fashion shoot. When the judge enters, she rises slowly, showing no sign of fear or remorse. The prosecutor reads charges of a serious crime against her mother, Dr. Praskovia Lejkovic. The defendant listens silently, her gaze empty and indifferent. After the session, a journalist asks, "Are you really guilty?" Anna smiles and softly replies, "How are you?" That brief phrase becomes a headline around the world. The student who smiled in court. The scene was filmed in December 2020 during the preliminary hearings. Exactly 1 year later, in December 2021, the same court will render a decision to place her in a psychiatric facility. But on that first day, at the moment captured on video, everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Who is she? A person who's lost contact with reality, an actress playing a part or a product of a world where anything goes and nothing has value. To understand Anna Lejkovic's story, we must see the country she grew up in. Moldova is a small state in Eastern Europe, sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the country has struggled for decades with poverty and political instability. Salaries are among the lowest in Europe, thousands of citizens leave abroad each year, and corruption remains a systemic norm. In European rankings, the country for years has occupied some of the lowest positions on the continent, surpassed only by a few post-Soviet states. Amid the general decline stands out the autonomous region of Gagauzia, on the country's south, roughly 60 miles from the capital. It is a territory with special status and its own parliament. The local population, mostly Gagauz, live modestly, working in agriculture and small business. Unemployment there is higher than in other regions. Yet, among ordinary homes, you can spot mansions built by those who manage to plug into local political or commercial structures. Anna was born in Comrat, the capital of Gagauzia, into a family whose status stood in stark contrast to that of most. The Lejkovic-Aladov family was among those in Moldova who lived by special rules. Anna's father, Vasily Aladov, was a well-known entrepreneur and politician in Gagauzia, deeply involved in the region's public life. He owned several plots of land and companies whose income often did not match the figures in official reports. He was repeatedly subject to investigations on suspicion of financial irregularities and manipulation of budget funds. Yet each of those investigations ended with no consequences, cases closed. Vasily Aladov made 2 attempts to become the governor of Gagauzia. Both campaigns ended in scandal. The first time, he was disqualified due to an insufficient number of verified signatures. The second time, the Ministry of Justice uncovered forged documentation and signs of vote tampering. Aladov dismissed the accusations as a politically motivated setup. After his failed bids for office, he still secured a position within the local government and continued his business activities, maintaining a reputation as someone powerful, someone you didn't want to cross. Anna's mother, Praskovia Lejkovic, came from a completely different world. A physician by training, she graduated medical school with honors and worked closely with German clinics. Her career took her between Moldova and Germany, often traveling on assignments. She was seen as a self-made woman, an example of someone who achieved success through intelligence and hard work. She gave her daughter a life of comfort, educational opportunities, and professional connections. The marriage between Vasily and Praskovia was short-lived. Their ambitions and outlooks clashed. After the divorce, Vasily quickly remarried, and Anna gained a half-brother from that union. Despite their separation, Anna's financial situation remained unchanged. She was raised in a world of abundance and little oversight. In her world, money solved everything, and boundaries didn't really exist. She was given near-complete freedom, from impulsive behavior to school conflicts. Any criticism from teachers or school staff was often followed by those individuals losing their jobs at her parents' request. Over time, this shaped a personality that didn't recognize limits, someone who believed every problem could be handled through connections or wealth. This dynamic, her father's political clout, her mother's professional success, and a total lack of structure, formed the foundation of Anna Leikovich's worldview. From a young age, Anna lived in what could be described as a glass bubble, a world where everything revolved around her. Her parents gave her everything they believed symbolized success: private schooling, international travel, lessons in the arts and languages, but they left out core elements of upbringing: discipline, responsibility, and boundaries. Praskovia, always juggling business trips and her medical career, tried to make up for her absences with gifts and attention when she could. Vasily, with his influence and access, never denied Anna anything. Whatever she wanted, a new item, a vacation, a spot in an elite event, it was granted without discussion. No wasn't part of the vocabulary. Household staff never stayed long. According to people familiar with the family, nannies and helpers frequently faced rude behavior and temperamental demands. Any attempt to set rules was met with complaints to the mother, and the staff was replaced. This same pattern played out at school. When teachers offered criticism, Anna responded aggressively, and her parents stepped in to resolve things with the administration. Over time, she absorbed a simple lesson: when things don't go her way, it's someone else's fault. Psychologists describe this kind of upbringing as a foundation for developing narcissistic traits. A young person raised in such an environment can grow up believing their wants matter more than anything else. In Anna's case, that belief was only reinforced by her family's wealth and influence. In a world where money replaced authority, boundaries eventually disappeared altogether. Former classmates recalled that Anna always carried herself like someone special. She craved the spotlight, couldn't handle criticism, and believed she deserved to be treated differently. Even minor slights were taken as personal offenses, and genuine emotional connection? That seemed to be missing entirely. People, to her, were more like tools for getting what she wanted. By the time she hit her teenage years, this behavior pattern was firmly established. She saw the world as a stage for her personal script. Discomfort, failure, or denial didn't lead to reflection, they sparked frustration. Empathy never took root, because neither her family nor her surroundings modeled it. Over time, Anna developed a personality marked by confidence, isolation, and a lack of internal limits. She didn't grasp where the line was between acceptable and unacceptable. That mental framework would later become the basis for decisions that led to tragic consequences. By the time Anna entered college, she had a clear understanding of her advantages: her appearance, her financial freedom, and a life largely free from rules. After finishing high school, she enrolled in medical school at a university in Russia. She did well academically, but her interest in medicine ran shallow. For her, studying medicine wasn't about helping others. It was about building an image. It fit with her desire for status, something she could showcase publicly. Alongside school, she began experimenting with modeling. At first, it was small gigs, photo shoots for local agencies, small runway events, commercials. Success in that world only deepened her sense of being exceptional. She started attending more social events, networking with young entrepreneurs and influencers. Around this time, she launched her Instagram account, which quickly became her main tool for self-promotion. Her feed was carefully curated: designer outfits, European vacations, upscale restaurants, exclusive parties, hotel stays, and campus life with no constraints. Each post projected the image of a new Europe influencer, a young woman who combined brains, beauty, and independence. By 2020, she had over 10,000 followers, a substantial audience in Moldova, a country with just over 2 million people. But the glamorous photos masked a growing inner crisis. The more Anna flaunted her polished lifestyle, the more she craved validation. Likes and comments became a measure of her worth. Without constant attention, she felt anxious and irritable. Eventually, her need for quick gratification spilled beyond social media. It began with alcohol at parties and events, then escalated to stronger substances. The crowd she spent time with didn't see this as a problem. Using illegal substances was viewed as part of European-style leisure. Outwardly, Anna still looked the same, poised and polished, but mentally, she was beginning to unravel. Her parents tried to intervene. Praskovia, her mother, hired a therapist, hoping that regular sessions would help stabilize her daughter. But therapy didn't work. Anna saw it as an attempt to control her and refused to engage in meaningful conversations about her behavior. By that point, there was a growing emotional distance between the two. Over time, Anna's reliance on substances became part of her persona. She could hide the consequences in front of a camera, but those close to her began to notice the changes. Dramatic mood swings, sleepless nights, emotional outbursts. What was left of her success was only a shell. By the time serious conflicts with her mother began, Anna was already at a point where the line between reality and illusion had blurred. Online, she still appeared confident and carefree, but offline, she was losing touch with herself and with the world she once believed she controlled. In mid-2020, Anna returned from Russia to Moldova. The official reason was the shift to online classes due to the pandemic. For her mother, this return brought both relief and deep concern. Praskovia hoped that being back home would help her daughter recover, and that with constant supervision, she could finally address her dependency. They began living together again in Comrat, in the house that used to feel empty due to Praskovia's frequent business trips. At first, things seemed calm. Praskovia focused on rebuilding trust, avoided arguments, and continued paying for psychological sessions and medical exams. Anna agreed to attend, but took none of it seriously. For her, these visits were just something to get through, not a real effort to change. It didn't take long for her mother to realize that the calm exterior masked irritation and aggression. Neighbors remembered seeing Praskovia leave the house looking anxious, though she rarely talked about personal matters. She explained her daughter's behavior as stress and burnout, but signs of dependency were becoming impossible to ignore. Late-night activity, constant phone calls to friends, emotional instability. On several occasions, she found pills and empty medication packaging in Anna's room, none of them prescribed. Then, in the fall of 2020, the first serious crisis hit. Anna was found unconscious in her room after what doctors later confirmed was an overdose. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, brought on by the use of banned substances. That was the moment Praskovia realized she couldn't handle this alone anymore. After her daughter was discharged, she insisted on full-time supervision and suggested a stay at a rehabilitation center. Anna flatly refused. She told her mother it was a one-time mistake and swore it wouldn't happen again. In an effort to maintain some peace, Praskovia backed off, opting instead for home care and close medical monitoring. For a short while, it seemed like things were improving. Anna was spending more time at home, focusing on her studies, and appeared calmer. But that calm didn't last. Within weeks, the tension returned. Their relationship grew increasingly strained. Any mention of treatment would trigger explosive reactions from Anna. Praskovia tried a softer approach, but every conversation ended in conflict. The house, once a symbol of stability, turned into a battleground of silent hostility. By the end of the year, the atmosphere had become unbearable. Anna withdrew, and her mother, though exhausted, kept trying to find help. She contacted doctors, researched clinics, and began preparing paperwork for involuntary treatment. It was a last resort. But by then, she felt she had no other option. In the final weeks leading up to the tragedy, the tension inside the house had reached a breaking point. Two women under the same roof, living in what felt like two separate realities. A mother desperately trying to save her daughter, and a daughter unwilling or unable to admit she needed help. December 4th, 2020. Comrat, a quiet town in southern Moldova. Praskovia Lakovic had just returned from Germany, where she'd spent several days at a professional conference. Friends later said she looked tired but composed, planning to spend the weekend at home with her daughter. That evening, around 7 p.m., she arrived at the house she and Anna shared. The housekeeper wasn't there that night, so the conversation between them happened privately. Praskovia had made a firm decision. After repeated failed attempts to convince Anna to enter treatment willingly, she had gathered all the necessary paperwork and filled out the referral forms for a private clinic. That choice would become the final spark in their already strained relationship. At first, the conversation was calm. Praskovia explained why treatment was necessary, that it was a chance to regain control of her life. Anna responded with indifference at first, then with irritation. When her mother revealed that everything had already been arranged and that doctors were expecting them the next morning, the tension exploded into shouting. According to investigators, Anna accused her mother of controlling her, interfering, and trying to humiliate her. Praskovia tried to de-escalate, but emotions had gone too far. Court records later described what happened next. Around 8 p.m., there was a sudden outburst of aggression. Anna went to the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife. Forensic experts reported that she was in an extremely agitated state, possibly under the influence of psychoactive substances. What followed happened in a matter of minutes. Afterward, Anna went to the bathroom. She carefully cleaned herself, changed clothes, and left the house. Investigation documents noted that she showed no visible signs of panic. She kept her phone and personal documents with her. What happened next unfolded almost exactly as later described in the official protocols. Anna went to her boyfriend's place nearby. According to him, she walked in calmly and said, "It's over. She's not in the way anymore." At first, he thought it was just a dramatic way of saying they'd had a fight, but as Anna shared more details, laughing, almost joking, he began to realize it might be more serious. When he asked her directly if she was telling the truth, she just shrugged and laughed. The two spent the evening together. Late that night, they left his apartment, bought champagne, and went out to a restaurant. Witnesses said Anna showed no signs of stress. She looked relaxed, even carefree. After dinner, she stayed the night at his place. The next morning, while Anna was still asleep, her boyfriend decided to check for himself. He went to the Lakovic home. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house was silent. A few minutes later, he called emergency services. Law enforcement arrived shortly after. Officers documented the scene and quickly identified Anna as a person of interest. Neighbors reported hearing shouting the night before, but said they hadn't intervened, assuming it was a typical family argument. Within hours, a search for the suspect was underway. Anna was on the run for 3 days. Authorities eventually located her at a friend's home in a nearby district. During the arrest, she didn't resist. She was calm, detached even. Later, investigators would note that same emotional distance, both at the moment of her arrest and throughout the interrogations, would carry over into the courtroom. That night marked a turning point. From that moment on, Anna Lekovich's story stopped being a private family tragedy. It became a criminal case that would shock the entire country. After her arrest, Anna was taken to the Comrat Police Department holding facility. The official investigation began that same day. The initial report came from the young man she had stayed with the night after the incident. He was the first to inform police that he suspected her involvement in her mother's death. His testimony became the foundation of the early investigation. Detectives pieced together a clear timeline of her actions after the incident. They determined that she had moved with intent and composure, no visible panic. During her first interrogation, Anna denied any wrongdoing. She was confident. Her answers were brief, often accompanied by a faint smile. One of the investigators later said it seemed like she didn't take any of it seriously. That impression would later be confirmed by a psychological evaluation. Experts observed a lack of emotional response to the gravity of the situation, something that diverged sharply from what would be expected in a high-stress event. The assessment described Anna as having strong narcissistic tendencies, a pattern of manipulative behavior, and a flair for the dramatic. She showed no signs of remorse or guilt. Meanwhile, witness statements were being gathered. Neighbors reported hearing shouting the night of December 4th but didn't intervene, thinking it was just another argument. Friends and acquaintances confirmed that tensions between Anna and her mother had escalated in recent months, mostly over the subject of treatment. One university lecturer shared that shortly before returning to Moldova, Anna had seemed unstable and often spoke about feeling pressured by her family. Anna's father, Vasily Aladov, did not speak publicly. However, relatives from his side of the family claimed they didn't believe she was responsible, suggesting that she may have experienced a psychological breakdown. Some media outlets speculated about possible attempts by the family to influence the investigation, though no official proof ever emerged. Public reaction was immediate. Shock and condemnation. The story of a medical student accused of committing a crime against her physician mother spread rapidly through regional and international news. For many, it became a disturbing reflection of a deeper moral crisis, one fueled by a culture of entitlement, unchecked privilege, and obsession with image. By the end of the initial interrogations, investigators had enough evidence to bring formal charges. Video footage of Anna, her distant gaze, calm tone, and chilling smile only intensified public scrutiny. She became a symbol of emotional detachment, a person seemingly disconnected from the consequences of her actions. That perception would later shape the core of the court proceedings. Final hearings were held in Chisinau in December 2021. By then, the investigation had lasted nearly a year. Dozens of interviews were conducted, independent evaluations ordered, and psychiatric records reviewed. The trial itself was closed to the public, but the main findings were later confirmed by official sources. Anna Lekovich remained composed. Her responses during questioning were measured, controlled, and noticeably devoid of emotion. According to a psychiatric evaluation at the time of the incident, Anna was in a psychological state that prevented her from fully understanding the nature and consequences of her actions. The assessment revealed signs of a severe mental disorder, exacerbated by psychoactive substances and emotional instability. The prosecution pushed for the maximum sentence. They insisted Anna was fully responsible for her actions, pointing to the sequence of events following the crime, cleaning herself, changing clothes, and attempting to flee, as evidence of intent and awareness. But the defense submitted additional medical reports and expert testimony, all reinforcing the argument that Anna had lost control of her behavior. After reviewing both sides, the court accepted the findings of the psychiatric experts. Anna Lekovich was ruled not criminally responsible and was ordered to undergo compulsory treatment at a high-security psychiatric facility. The sentence was open-ended. Her release would only be possible if a medical board determined she had shown consistent, verifiable improvement. Public reaction to the verdict was deeply divided. Some in Gagaucia and Chisinau considered it a just outcome. Others saw it as preferential treatment, possibly influenced by family connections. Journalists noted that in Moldova, where life sentences for women are not legally permitted, this verdict amounted to indefinite institutionalization. After the court's decision was announced, prosecutors filed an appeal, but the ruling was upheld. Anna's father declined to speak publicly. Her maternal relatives expressed hope that she would receive the care she needed and never return to her former life. And so ended one of the most high-profile criminal cases in modern Moldova, a case that blurred the lines between personal tragedy, social privilege, and mental illness, leaving an entire nation to wrestle with a haunting question: where does accountability end, and where does a fractured mind begin?